well today I am going to talk to you about a p0300 misfire on this 03 Avalanche with a 5.3 I got here. Okay, it come to me about 3 or 4 other people have worked on it. Did not have any success with multiple issues. Come to me, put some fresh gas in it, good battery, start it. It'd run for about 3 or 5 minutes and die. So put the scanner in it. And the only code that pertained to the engine it had was the p0300 random misfire. Okay, well, I knew that wasn't why, so I put a fuel gauge on it and fuel pressure gauge. And sure enough, it only had 45 pounds with key on. With it running, and then it would just slowly dwindle away and die. So, drop the tank, put a fuel pump in, starts and runs. Don't have any more issues there, 58 pounds fuel pressure, but I still have the misfire. Okay, well, to go down a long path here, you can throw a lot of money at these, attempting to fix a problem that you may be chasing. So I'm going to explain to you what I went through and how I got to where I'm at. So after the fuel pump, I put the scanner back in and went to my misfire counter, and cylinders 2 and 7 were both showed to be misfiring. So I pulled the injector wire off while it was running, and no change. Well, it also would not go into closed loop because the coolant temp sensor was off about 40 degrees, and I had the oil pressure gauge was shorted out. So I went through and I changed the oil pressure sending unit, which fixed the oil pressure gauge. I changed the coolant temp sensor, which fixed that. I watched in that point it would go into closed loop. I had one bank one upstream O2 sensor was a little lazy, not working like I would like to see it. So I have had these to where the O2 would short out and actually kill a cylinder. So I got underneath on the bank one, dropped the front drive shaft so I could get up in there, unplugged it, did not make a difference with the misfire. So the cats seemed to be good still. I had noticed when I was under there it had a transmission put in it. So I start checking for grounds. Okay, I had a ground back by the oil pressure sensor on the left-hand rear of the block, right beside the intake on the left side. I fixed it, and then on... Let me get my light here. And here's what the oil pressure sending unit looks like. It is a 27 millimeter socket it takes to get to it, and you'll want either a swivel on the end of it to get on it right, or you will want a wobble extension will work. And here's the coolant temp sensor. That's what it looks like, and it's located right there. You can see the new one. There it is. And the but anyways, on the ground, this wire here, if you follow this main ground wire, it runs down to the lower side left hand of the block. And there is 2 other wires down there that go to the coil packs, I believe, if I remember right, as a ground. And they were really corroded, so I cut that off, put a new in. Still had no fix. So I pulled the plug and the plug was wet. And I thought, well, must have a compression problem. So I did a compression test. 130 pounds. We don't have a compression problem. So then I got a node light at that point. Okay. Well, I got a node light, and on these injectors, they have this little deal here that you pull up on. You're not supposed to have to pull it clear out there a lock, but I found it's easier. I just pull them and get them out of the way. And there's a little tab. Yeah, what do I got? A little tab right here. And you just push it, give it a pull, there it comes off. Okay? And then this is what you call a node light. You just find the one you need, you plug it in. With the engine running, if it flashes, you've got power and ground to this injector. I had power and ground to both injectors. So, at that point, I figured, well, the injector's hung open. So, I thought, well, I blew out the intake real good. Where the injector's all set, worst with brake cleaner, blew it again. There is 4 8mm bolts that go down right into this. This is the fuel rail. They go right into these holes here on each side. And that's where the fuel port is, if you don't know, to check fuel pressure on this one. And so I pulled the fuel rail clear up and went and keyed it on, and neither one of them injectors leaked. So I switched coils from a good cylinder, no change. I flipped plug wires, no change. So I put another new spark plug in. This 2-hole that was easy to get to, no change. Okay. I found it very weird to be flooding a cylinder with a bad injector if it wasn't pinned open. I took a stethoscope and I listened to all 8 injectors, and number 2 and number 7 didn't sound as loud. So then I switched injectors, and lo and behold, the misfire changed to the cylinders that I moved them injectors. So basically what I'm telling you is to go through and do your research. You need a good scanner and look at your fuel trims, long and short term. Like this engine, even with these 2 cylinders misfiring, my long-term fuel trims were about 6 and 7, and my short term was 0 to -2. So pretty good actually for missing 2 holes. The only thing I can think of is these injectors were lazy. They're half gummed up and they're firing. They're just letting the fuel off too late for the fire side of it. But that is what I found. But also, I do know these have a lot of ground problems, so you need to make sure all your grounds are good. Don't just start throwing parts at them. You'll spend a lot of money and get nowhere. They also have intake manifold problems. That is another thing I forgot to say. In the process of this, I sprayed, which if you got a big vacuum leak, typically your fuel trims are going to get jacked up. But I did spray the intake manifold around all the runners the best I could with brake cleaner and ether, and not a change anywhere. You always want to check around this purge solenoid here, and you always want to check around that intake air temp sensor back there in the back. You can see there's a little rubber deal on it that goes bad every once in a while. But other than that, make sure your grounds are good. Make sure your O2s are all functioning. Bad O2s will have an effect as well, where these won't run right. Typically, though, I don't think you see a 2-cylinder on a dead misfire. You'll have rough running conditions. So I am going to change this injector that's easy to get to and just show you guys how to do it. And all I got to do is unplug that again. I switched the 2-cylinder to the 4-cylinder, and that's why I'm going to change this number 4. And take my screwdriver. First, I want to pull the fuel rail off. And this fuel rail is going to come off pretty easy because I already had it off. And there's little tabs in here. You probably will not be able to see me do it, but It's not as easy. You just take a little screwdriver and get back in there and pop them off. Alright, well here's the clip that holds it on. It goes on like this, onto the rail in the injector, hold the injector. I just take a screwdriver, get back here, pry it off, keep my hands on it so I don't lose it. And then this injector, like I said, that one, it probably wouldn't hurt to have a rag there so you don't fill that cylinder full of fuel like I just did. Here's the injector. I've got new ones here from Napa. These aren't a very cheap injector. They're about $100 a piece. You can get them cheaper off the internet. I don't know what quality you're getting, but you can get them a lot cheaper actually. Okay, here's my new one. Make sure there's right. There is two different ones. That one all looks right. Okay. I am going to take just a little bit of lube and put on both these O-rings. It makes it go on so much easier. Otherwise, it's quite a fight to get it on. Now I'll put it back in my fuel rail. I should just pick it up on it. Push it up in there, now stop. There we go, it's in all the way. Then you take your clip, and it goes on like this. And it's not real easy to get in there. Oh, dang it. Yeah. I'll have to clear back out. Okay, there we go. Try it again. Good Lord have mercy. Okay, there we go. Injector's locked in. I'll push it back in until it's set. And of course you'd put your bolts back in, both sides, and then put your locks back on. So I'll go and put them on. They're pretty simple to put on, I'll show you. Yes, clip it on to the side like that. It goes behind like this. Well, maybe I'll wire on myself. I may have to. Okay, there we go. There we go. See, in theory, they should work like that. And you push that down, and they lock. You should not have to pull these off if they work right. I couldn't get none of these to release right. Sometimes they get packed full of dirt too. Okay. There we go. Okay, there we go. Should just be able to pull them up like that. Like that, and they should release, but this one won't release. Okay. Alright, well I've changed both injectors on the 2 and 7, and as you can tell it's running smooth. It sounds good. So I'm on my misfire counter here. I still have an O2 unplugged under there, so that's going to have a little effect here, but I have no misfires on any cylinder. So for now, I fixed the misfire. I am going to go run it and get it into closed loop, run it down the road 30 miles. Make sure my O2s are working properly. That one, like I said, was just a little slow, not moving as much as I'd like to see. So I'll go drive it and